So in the last few episodes, we have been talking about the aliens, of course, but also the alien abductions. And alongside that, we were also talking about Joe Rogan and Skinwalker Ranch, that there was a billionaire that purchased, that set up like a team of some scientists together. They try to collect as much data as possible, and there was some freaky stuff that was going down on Skinwalker Ranch. Well, guess what? Apparently, we got another one of those Joe Rogan podcast episodes. This is like the follow-up right after, and I think this is actually good. I've seen like 2 minutes of it. I have not seen the entire thing, so let's check it out. Like this video if you love videos like that. Subscribe if you're brand new. We upload every single day here, man, and it's a pleasure to have you. Roll it.
Know that you're this billionaire investor and you're a very successful businessman, but you have a deep fascination with UFOs.
Yeah, sure do.
How did this all get started?
Back when when I was about 3 years old, which would be about 1947, and actually in May of that year, my grandparents had a very close encounter that was dramatic. And they were taking an evening drive in the late afternoon up into the mountains and coming on back down to Las Vegas. And they saw what appeared to be at first an airplane on fire. And the object became closer and closer to them, and they pulled off to the side of the road. And at one point, then it filled up the windshield, and they thought they were going to die. And at the last second, it shot off and disappeared. And I learned of this story when I was probably 10 years old.
Okay.
And because I was 3 at the time, and my mother had told me this story. So I approached my grandfather, and he wouldn't talk about it. Now, after all these years, like 7 years have gone by, because I was intrigued with it. And so I went to my grandmother, and she only would say a few words, but she wouldn't talk. So I got the story from my mom, and my grandfather had to sit on the side of the road there in the car for a while to process, recompose himself, because they thought they were going to die. And then he finally was able to drive on back to Las Vegas. So that was the beginning for me.
Insane, right? Like, I wonder what was the thought process of his grandparents and anybody that back then would see some floating objects, because nowadays everybody's like, aliens. I mean, even if there is nothing necessarily alien-like in the sky, people will be like, aliens, and quickly jump to conclusions, because we have a lot of awareness, first of all, but a lot of videos, of course, most I should say fake, some probably real as well. And the fact that Pentagon has confirmed the UFOs are real, the fact that there are so many studies going on, we're in a time and age where it's perfectly fine to talk about these things, right? Because back then, especially 47, 50s, even I would say like around 70s, 80s, and 90s, if you were talking and discussing actively about these things, you would be labeled as a mentally person. I cannot say that word on YouTube, but mentally ill, let's just say, right? No disrespect to anybody that is, but you would be labeled crazy and all sort of things. This is exactly what you hear all the time, but now it is pretty normal to talk about it, and I like it, and I like it that it's become pretty normal to talk about it. But when are they gonna reveal it though? Yeah, that's exactly what I want to know, man.
Do you ever describe what you said? It looked like a plane on fire, but like, what was the shape of it as it got closer?
I don't recall any kind of shape that my mother described. I don't recall that.
Okay.
But they just knew it wasn't a plane. They knew it was something.
That's right.
Something crazy.
So in the family, the family had an event, and I lived right next door to my grandparents, and the family had an event that kind of started things at that date. For me, other personal things came later. But for the family, that was a big deal.
So this was, you said 47?
Yeah.
47.
Yeah.
And 47 was the time of the Roswell crash. 47 was the time there was a lot of UFO activity being observed worldwide. And the speculation is that this had to do with
Nukes?
the nuclear bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and all the tests that the United States had done and Russia had done, and that there was a lot of interest in obviously in that. Well, actually, Russia hadn't dropped any bombs by that time, right?
Right.
It was after that, but
Yeah.
that there was.
Yeah, right. It's crazy, and this is exactly what you hear all the time. Not sure if it's true or not, but yeah, this is what you hear all the time. That this is exactly why the fact that we drop nukes, that's what caught their eye, right? And they surely don't want us dropping nukes left and right. And this is why, you know, in modern times, now you hear, it's still been some time, but now you hear that the UFOs in the sky perhaps stop the nuclear test facility, because there are a lot of nuclear test facility around the globe, and you hear in news, and there was actually a report very well documented. It's very well documented, and it's confirmed by the people that were working at these nuclear test facility, and it's been confirmed that they saw like some sort of UFO object in the sky, and all of a sudden their crap malfunctioned, and it stopped working. So it is almost as though they didn't want they don't want us firing the nukes, and they don't want us testing or anything like that. They just don't like that, and that's what you hear from whistleblowers as well, whether you want to believe them or not. Especially Dr. Stephen Greer, he's one of those guys that says that they don't want us blowing up our planet. I mean, that's actually good to hear that, you know, somebody care for us, but do they really care for us? And if they care for us, why do they care for us, right? Yeah, it's kind of suspect, man. It's kind of
There was
suspect.
interest in our species by extraterrestrials because they let, oh, these crazy assholes are detonating nukes. Like, let's go take a look at them.
Right. Well, you had so-called Foo Fighters during the war, these lights that were following bombers, and the tail gunners were the ones that saw them most often, of course, and that happened through the war, and then of course Roswell, but before that was Ken Arnold, right, in about June-ish, and then in July 8th was Roswell.
And there's a direct uptick, though, from the Trinity experiments, right?
I think I gather my feeling simply is that without any kind of other evidence or proof that was a huge stimulus. Yeah.
So this was around that time, and you had heard about this as a part of, you know, family discussions,
Right.
And so that sort of ignited the fire initially.
Yeah, and I started asking my friends, as I say, when I was about 10, you know, have you any reports in your family of anything? And by golly, a couple of my close friends told me things that they had never told me before. So, you know, that wasn't necessarily an exclusive event, is what I'm saying. Other people in Las Vegas had seen things at close proximity as well.
Now,
Area 51
your
was
relationship
nearby,
to
yeah.
this is obviously something that you've carried for so long. It's been an obsession of yours for so long.
Yeah, yeah.
It started with this, but what personal experiences, if any, have you had?
Well, when I was probably 7 or 8, I used to have what I chalked up all my life to just being silly dreams. And I had maybe 5 or 6 of these dreams, and I could never make sense of them. And I would be laying in bed on my side, and typical dream, always the same. There would be 3 short somethings in a kind of monk robe. And so I couldn't see any face, couldn't see any appendages. And these 3 whatevers were standing there, and they were not too far from my eye level as far as the heights and so forth.
So these like child size?
Yeah. And so there was nothing I was an avid comic book reader, but there was nothing in the whole genre of comic books that related to that, or movies. And we didn't have television in Las Vegas till 53 or 54. And even after that, it was terrible broadcasting.
And rare, huh?
You know, at first. But so it made no sense to me. And so over my lifetime, I never mentioned it to anybody, including my wife. You know, it's funny how you keep things secret and just kind of for no good reason. Maybe I was being...
And later on, he went to by Skinwalker Ranch as well, because, and this is how it started. Like, he's just he was super fascinated by, yeah, this is my first time hearing him actually talk about his early experiences, and this is kind of what led him to, I guess, believe the story of the Skinwalker Ranch. The story, simply put, is just wild. It is perplexing, it is fascinating, and in just like a super short form, there was some family, right, and that experienced like multiple events of seeing bizarre lights in the skies. At one point, the guy had binoculars, and he used binoculars and saw like some sort of portal opening, creatures coming out of it, right? It's insane. That's what's mentioned. But again, I gotta also bring up this point. Is there any proof of it? No. There's no proof of it. But the only thing that's amazing about this is because a billionaire actually purchases the ranch, put scientists on it, and they have also experienced a lot of this bizarre activity there, and they confirmed that, okay, the guy, the family that was living at the Skinwalker Ranch was apparently telling the truth. So that's what we have. But it's that whenever they try to record or get proof, it's like, for example, like you have a camera here, right? You're recording what's happening there. It was happening there, but the second they started recording it, then it would happen somewhere else. Some people don't buy the story, some people call it bogus. Yeah, it's fair, because we don't have any proof, right? It's a very fascinating story, and of course, the cattle mutilations, missing organs, and that also happened as well. Yeah, if you heard this story, apparently that also happened at the Skinwalker Ranch. So, and we do have pictures of the mutilations, which surely I cannot, I believe I can show, but yeah, I'm not sure about it. But if you Google it, you're gonna see, and I'm sure most of you have already seen the images that I'm currently talking about, right? We have that evidence though. That part is real, that part we have, but the rest of it, where there was a portal opening, creature coming out of it, that is just something that the family claimed to have seen. And of course, lights in the skies, UFOs, different kind of wolves, animals that, and apparently at one point, the family claimed that their dog tried to chase one of these creatures and never came back. There's so many things that the family described, and yeah, God knows if that's true or not.
Embarrassed and so over my lifetime, I never mentioned it to anybody, including my wife. You know, it's funny how you keep things secret, and just kind of for no good reason. Maybe I would be embarrassed to talk about it. But I finally thought, well, you know, maybe it was just dreams. Maybe it was something else.
Maybe.
And so that was a first event, personally, that I had at that time in the subject.
When did you start to connect the idea of these tiny people or human-like things with extraterrestrials?
Well, years later, when I began to start my process as a researcher and as a student, in the subject, and began to talk with people who made it their business to be experts in abductions. And the more I got into the field and sat writing out questions for the researcher, for the therapist who would be asking the questions, and I'd be sitting there watching the process. And just over time, I thought, well, you know, maybe there was something more to it, but I'm better off not knowing anything, so I'll just block it off and forget about it.
Yeah, we talked last night about John Mack a little bit, the Harvard...
great guy.
Yeah. And he did a lot of these sort of hypnotic regression sessions with people where they describe very similar scenarios.
Well, yeah, a multitude of different situations. The abduction phenomena was
sadly, it's gonna get cut off.
Very proliferate in the population, it seemed like. Even we did a survey called the Roper Poll.
Guys, check out this one on the screen, this episode we've done with Joe Rogan not long ago, and you're gonna love it. You're absolutely gonna love it. We have this series ongoing with the UFO talk, alien talk, and with all the guests that Joe Rogan has, and it's always interesting, man. So check it out. I'm sure you're gonna like it. On the left, we got a lot of UFO clips though. Yay! Check out both of these videos, and I'll see you right there.